Hi Sagittarius, welcome to your October 2016 love tarot reading. You know, this is what I'm going to do, and I had actually thought about this before because somebody had written to me and said that I should just do general readings and not separate the love reading from the general reading. And one of the reasons that I prefer having separate readings is because then you can kind of get more specific, or at least explore it a little bit more. And when you're doing a general reading, you tend to focus on one thing over another, and maybe that's more organic in a certain way because you're just seeing what the cards say and what the trend is like. But I have found that with general readings, there's going to be different messages. It's not like, you're one person, in a private reading and I'm just looking at the cards in that sense. So I prefer to separate them. At some point I may do that just to see how it goes and see if I like that method better. It might seem more natural, and I can certainly see what that person meant. But I'm going to do it this way, and what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to do a love reading and then I'm going to do a general reading back to back, because I want to just see if the cards have a theme that, they kind of connect with one another for October. And as a Sun in Sagittarius myself, it'll be good for me as well to see this. So this is the love reading. Wow, very good cards so far. It's amazing. It really is. Okay. So right after I said I was doing a love reading, the first card I picked was the Lover's card. Couldn't be more apropos. This is for the overall theme. And, obviously the card is self-explanatory in the way that we are looking at this reading. But to go even further, I think the fact that these people are depicted in the nude speaks to intimacy. And this is like going beneath the surface. It can be that a relationship is consummated. Maybe you were talking to someone or dating, and then it goes to that next level and there's no going back. It can't just be considered a friendship anymore. But it could be an emotional, on the emotional level, that you're kind of exposing yourself. And there's a sense of, I think, abandonment or a lack of fear associated with it. You're not guarded. You're trusting. This card is connected to Gemini. So there could be a Gemini person that is the person you're involved with. And Gemini is the opposite sign of Sagittarius. Sometimes this card indicates that a choice has to be made. So when someone is possibly already involved with somebody else, and I did get the Judgment card, so it can speak to court issues, I believe, that there may be, you may be awaiting a judgment, or you may be still involved in a divorce case, and maybe you're afraid to get involved because you haven't really tied up all those loose ends. That could be what's happening too, or you don't want to jeopardize the case, so you've been holding off. But it's a very positive card for love in general. We can say that. In the recent past, we have the Four of Cups. So this is a card of someone who is dissatisfied with what is happening at this time. And, you know, there has to be some mention of the fact that he's being provided this golden chalice, and he just has a blank look on his face. So, to me, this is a cautionary tale in the sense that you have to have gratitude in relationships. You have to be able to appreciate people, because the cups do relate to the emotions and therefore to our bonds, our emotional bonds, our relationships. And this person is not appreciating what is being given to him. It's not what he wanted. And some people are like that. They really, and I see that not just with love, but with anything. I mean, when somebody does something nice for you and you don't say thank you, and I see that sometimes. Somebody holds the door for you, and I see people and they don't say thank you. They just walk through. They're just oblivious to all the little kind things that are around them, and then they wonder why they can't attract love into their life, and they're not full of love. They're totally self-absorbed. So this is something, and I think that all of us as Sages and fire signs in general have to watch out for self-absorption, because the fire signs, and I'm sure I've read this, I'm sure I'm not making this up, I connect them with the ego. And this is, and I'm not talking about, narcissism, although that's the shadow aspect of it. I'm talking about just the sense of self. And this is expressed through creativity a lot of times. There can be physical creativity in the form of children, but just, what the fifth house represents in astrology, which is controlled or ruled by the sign Leo, one of the fire signs, along with Aries and Sagittarius. So there tends to be this creative drive in the fire signs. And this drive is coming from expressing your essence, which is your, the positive ego, the sense of self that is different. We have this collective soul, and then we have our individual souls. And so we have to make sure that we're not too self-absorbed, pursuing our own dreams, because the fire signs also connect with ambition. And, when you have the wands, representing fire in the tarot, ambition is a part of that. And, having, your own business or your own creative project. And so if you have broken up with a partner recently, ask yourself, did you really appreciate that person enough? Even if you knew that you were not compatible, it may have also been that some people get impatient when they don't feel that connection, and then they take it out on the other person. Now, the Four of Cups, it could just mean that you were not satisfied in the past emotionally. Okay, but I wanted to put in that element, because sometimes we need to also look at ourselves. Even if the other party did things that were not good either, I still think it's always good to look at what we have done and to kind of question our own behaviors. Okay, so that contrast between that disinterest and the Lover's card is quite stark. And that means that it's very possible that you have, found somebody who is much more compatible to you. the Four of Cups, it could have been an actual water sign individual, and that would provide a lot of, I think, for many of you, a lot of I was going to say misalignment. I don't know if that's even a word, but a lot of problems in understanding one another, to put it mildly. The cups and water signs, or the water signs and fire signs individuals, are similar in that they both have emotional natures, but the cups people are much more subjective in what they get emotional about. It's their family, their husband or wife, their children, their whatever, their job. And the fire signs are into like saving the whales and all that stuff. Everything that has to do with the outside world. They're much more expansive rather than going inward. And so sometimes I think fire sign people can feel that water sign people are too self-absorbed, ironically. And there may be some truth about that, but water sign people are also very thoughtful, and they tend to really care about the people that are in their lives, on an intimate level, and they try to make their lives, give that personal touch to their lives. So it can be very disappointing when that type of relationship breaks up, but there can be a lack of understanding that both people feel. And if you have gotten with a Gemini person now, it's more your speed. It's more of your makeup, or the same way that you see the world. In the near future, we have the Fool card. And so this is, I really, when I saw this card, I knew that this was going to be a good reading, because this points to somebody who is very, footloose and fancy-free, and not weighed down by a lot of, psychological baggage. And so that could be a reflection on the new relationship, that there's something that makes you feel free. If you were with a water sign individual, you might not have felt like that, because that person is a lot more cautious about life. I'm sorry, I didn't mention that the water signs are Cancer, and this could specifically be a Cancer, although, as I said in a past video, I've never heard of a Cancer and Sagittarian relationship. I've never had one in my personal life or seen one. I mean, I'm talking about spouses. But somebody wrote to me and said that they had been involved in one. So the 4 relates to Cancer, because in the 4th house is ruled by Cancer. But it could be, the other water signs are Scorpio and Pisces. So those people tend to be much more cautious, and they wouldn't be like the Fool normally. But Sagittarians can be. Sagittarians are travelers, and they like to explore. And they're not really that concerned about the destination. They're just more interested in the journey. And so you may find someone who is more like you in that sense, who is not that concerned with, oh my gosh, how are we going to, what's going to happen to, should we, what we're going to do about the house, what if somebody breaks in, those kind of things that other people think about. That you're not going to do that. You're going to be much more adventurous, excited to go on this journey. And it just might just point to the relationship itself. Maybe not a physical destination, but you're just going to take it as it comes. You're not going to be too worried about, oh, is this going to lead to a commitment? You're willing to take that chance. the higher message is the Nine of Cups. So this, I got the Nine of Cups and the Star card. So this really is about your dreams coming true, pretty much. And October is supposed to be a good month for, I think, all of us. But remember, too, and this is something I didn't mention at the beginning of this, is that Libra, Jupiter is going into Libra, because at the time that I'm filming this, it hasn't happened yet. It's happening, I believe it is the 9th of September. So, when you are watching this, most of you, it probably will be when it's already happened. And Libra is much more compatible with Sagittarius than Virgo. Virgo forms a square with Sagittarius, which is a challenging aspect. With Libra, it's a sextile. So this is a very easy aspect. And since Jupiter is our ruler, it's even more significant. So I feel like things can flow more easily in the luck department when you have Jupiter in a sign that is friendly to your sun sign or your rising sign. And so in this case with the Nine of Cups, it's somebody who is really getting their wishes fulfilled. It's the yes card. It's the card of it's a cups, so it would be on the emotional level, and so that goes very nicely with any relationship that you've wanted. But it's also a card connected to abundance, like on the material level. And the number 9, the 9th house is the house that Jupiter rules. It's Sagittarius's house. And yet 9 connects, I got the 9, the Hermit card, that's Virgo. And the 9th month is Virgo, September. So what it could be saying too is that this will start, maybe that's when, that's when Jupiter goes into Libra. Maybe that's when you'll start to see this come through. It's a few days from now when I'm recording this. So see if you meet anyone in the month of September, and if this is when it happens. But it's definitely it's a card of affirmation that your wishes have been granted. And they always talk about this. I'd have to see. I don't have like a whole collection of decks. I have like 3 tarot decks. But you see how kind of smug this guy is. And the same applies with the Rider-Waite deck. This is the Morgan Greer deck. And they say you have to be careful that you don't get too smug about your victories or your dreams coming true. Because it's kind of an indulgent energy. And I would like to see more depictions of the Nine of Cups to see if they interpret it that way across the board. It's like the cat who ate the canary type of a deal. But very nice, very nice. And that's a higher message. As the higher message, I feel that it's telling you that, maybe you did kind of fear that it would ever happen. When I see the Star card, and this is the end result, I always think of someone who may have gone through a lot of suffering and come out the other end victorious. Sagittarians, I've read enough comments, not just under my videos, but under other Sagittarian videos on YouTube, that Sagittarians have been feeling a sense of struggle. And I was thinking, well, Saturn just went into our sign, so what could it be? Astrologically, they could be doing this. And maybe it was when Saturn was in the 12th house. That could have been what it was, because that's a very oppressive position, because it's almost like there's nothing you can do. It's just like really, it's like the karma bearing down on us. And because Saturn is in one sign for almost like, well, for 2.5 years, that's a long stretch of time to have it in that one house. And the 12th house is such a kind of a hard thing to access, and as well as a hard thing to really, wrap your brain around, because it's more of a spiritual energy. So it's not tangible. It's kind of like, sometimes it can feel icky because there's a lot of gunk, psychic gunk and emotional gunk that is, residue maybe from even childhood that never really got dealt with. It's kind of like, getting, I just thought of this. What do they call it? Not colonoscopy. No, not colonoscopy. A colonic. And they, I'm not going to, I'll spare you the gory details, but that when they're cleaning your colon and there's all this old stuff in there, that's kind of like what the 12th house represents to me. And with Saturn there, in the sense of like, okay, you're going to experience this. You're going to have this really grounded into you. That means that it becomes materialized, and you might see it in front of you in the form of failing relationships or failing, just anything that feels not hopeful, which is what this card represents and what that card represents, that are joyful. And so we're through with that. But, the aftermath. This is the aftermath. And luckily now things are starting to pick up for us. So what crosses you is the Hermit. And this isn't really much of a crossing, I feel. It's just kind of a saying. It kind of reminds me of the Four of Swords in reverse, because I'm reading this like a reverse card. Or maybe, if you've gotten in the habit of just being too into yourself, you're going to have to come out of that shell in order to really fully participate in a relationship. And even if you were in a marriage, you might have kind of just gone into your shell because you weren't getting along and you were biding your time until you could leave. But the Hermit in reverse is also about wisdom spurned. So you have to make sure that you do not fall into a new trap if you are getting involved with a new person, that you do not fall into old patterns that are dysfunctional with that person. An example would be codependency, and even Sagittarians can get into this. This isn't something, we are independent people, but you have other signs and planets that influence you, and plus, even beyond, the astrological influence, just in life, we're kind of conditioned to depend on other people and not really follow our own path. And I was going to say as women, and I paused because I didn't want to single out a gender, but yes, I will say it. As women, when most of my viewers are women, you also have to kind of fight against the urge to always, look at the world through another person's eyes. Even if you decide to get involved with some new person on a deep level, make sure that you never lose yourself. And, that way you're always honoring yourself within the confines of a relationship. The thing that helps you, and this is on the mental level at this time, is represented by the King of Wands. The king always represents the controlled, mature version of whatever the wands represent. So this is the person who is passionate, but the passion is tempered. It's not like the Knight of Wands. It's not all over the map, this unbridled passion. So this would represent in relationships not allowing yourself to go crazy, or the head over heels thing, that you can feel the passion of the relationship and keep your head. It also means that you remain in control again, kind of going along with what I just said about this, not allowing yourself to get too crazy, not allowing yourself to become too dependent on somebody, that you're able to be intra-dependent. You know, you acknowledge the desire to rely on the other person, but you don't say, oh, I have to have this relationship or else. That you always are honoring what you need to do and not sacrificing unnecessarily. Sacrifice, the very word, means that, to me, that you're giving up something that you want. If it's something, if you're happy to do something, then it's not a sacrifice. If you want to make somebody else happy and you give up something to do it, then you're just making somebody else happy. But sacrifice implies a loss, implies that you're giving up your dreams for somebody else, and that, to me, doesn't work out too well. But the King of Wands is a leader, is somebody who is very well respected, so there's a sense of dignity in this person, and this is the attitude to cultivate. And I always talk about that, about not allowing anyone to try to walk all over your dignity. You know, that's something that's just like a basic thing, you know, and that's kind of a very good red flag that's kind of glaring. If somebody is, it doesn't mean that someone can never not criticize you, but just point something out to you. Yeah, I mean, sometimes we do need to have things pointed out to us if we're unconscious about them. But I'm talking about that they almost like they try to destroy your self-esteem. That kind of a person is a destructive influence. And you will immediately know the difference. A person who feels like they have to tell you something, they're going to be kind of almost a little bit distressed that they have to tell you this. They're not going to relish it. They're not going to like look forward to doing it. They might even like hem and haw, you know, and not, you might have to drag it out of them. But somebody who is deliberately trying to make you feel bad is somebody to avoid like the plague. And the King of Wands carries himself or herself with the utmost indignity and expects to be treated that way, not as a diva or as a king, but as a human being. And as all human beings, we deserve to be treated with respect, basic respect. Okay, the advice is represented by the Judgment card, and I think that this is more, I don't think this is an action unless you are in court. If you are in court, I would say, and you know, you're tying up loose ends from a former marriage or any kind of like child custody issues. Remember that if you feel that something's happening not unfairly, really bring it to that macro level and see if that's the case. If it's for the greatest good, the highest good, then you might want to just accept it, even if it feels unfair, just so that you don't put a child through any kind of pain. Or if it's a case of you leaving somebody else, you may want to give them more than, you know, their quote-unquote fair share, because you want to be fair to them. I mean, you want to kind of make it up to them in some cases, because the Judgment is about cause and effect. And it's about acknowledging that, you know, there is cause and effect in the universe, that if you know, how you treat somebody is how you're building that relationship. And so it has to start on a good foot. And the same applies for if you're, you know, getting together with somebody who is cheating on their spouse. and they're telling you that this person is really a bad person, they don't understand them, all the typical things, you have to, it's not about, oh, that's evil, oh, you're going to hell, that's a sin. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about cause and effect, just like gravity, just like the laws of physics, the laws of the universe. That's what judgment represents. When you are engaged in a certain behavior, it's not, oh, will it come back to me? I don't want it to come back to me. That's not, to me, the ultimate, way of having ethics. The ultimate way of ethics is putting yourself in somebody else's shoes and saying, how would I feel if somebody did this to me? Would I want my spouse to cheat on me? And also to say, if you're with somebody who is cheating, they're showcasing their lack of ethics. Now, if they have told their spouse that they are with you, that's a different story. If the person refuses to give up that person, their spouse, that's a different story. I'm talking about where they're going behind their spouse's back. And so that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about judgment. And I'm talking also about it in the future. So what is the way that you would like to begin a new relationship with a new person? Do you want to begin it on a good foot? In that case, you have to be the change you wish to see. So you have to be respectful, you have to be ethical, you have to be, and a lot of Sagittarians dislike dishonesty, actually. But that's what, when I talk about this, I'm not necessarily seeing it from an action step, but more of an attitude, almost like this one that I mentioned. But it could be that there will be some kind of a legal decision during the month of October for you that relates to a relationship. And also how you conduct yourself during this time of the judgment. That's important too. Not to be this, because it looks like this is going to be in your favor, whatever happens. So don't gloat. Be humble. Be respectful. Even if the other person is an asshat and treated you badly, then it's even more, then you're even going to show more class by not sinking down to that level. The outcome, as I had mentioned earlier, is the star card. So it's funny because, this is the kind of, I have to find out the connection because this is connected to Aquarius. So I'm trying to, maybe that's just why they have the water bearer. But this, when we talk about water, and we had these cups cards that have to do with water. So in this particular reading, we're talking about love. And love is an emotion. So yes, you do get the girl or the guy, if that's what you had wished for. And so it seems like there is a happy ending here for some of you. Obviously, I can't just say, okay, everybody's going to have this reading happen to you. I can't say that. It would be a bit silly. We're looking at it symbolically. So maybe every single Sagittarian can see something within these cards that represent what's happening to them even now. And if this star card and the Nine of Cups, if this gives you a sense of relief or hope, then that's a great thing that the reading will have done. Okay, so I wish this for all of you on some level, that, the person that you want to be with, or the type of person that you want to be with, maybe it's a specific person, that person is in your life this fall, or for those of you in the Southern Hemisphere, I guess it's this spring. And I wish it for you, and I hope that you enjoyed this. If you'd like a personal reading, there is a link below in the description box. Otherwise, have a great October. Bye.